Hello and welcome to Reportage with Danish bin Nabi. Today I am joined by former Indian ambassador to South Korea and Canada, Mr. Vishnu Prakash. In this segment, I will be discussing with him worsening relations between India and her neighbors in the recent past. Mr. Ambassador, a very warm welcome to you. Mr. Ambassador, do you think the present political dispensation's neighborhood first policy is yielding results?
Well, it is, and it is an article of faith with India. India has a vision. We are a re-emerging economy. You know that till the 19th century, we were contributing more than 20% of the global GDP, and because of the colonial rule, things happened. India is re-emerging, and we are the largest country, largest geographically, largest economy in South Asia. And our effort is to have peace, tranquility, and friendship with our neighbors and create a stake amongst our neighbors in the growth of India. And that's only when the economies get interlinked and they benefit from India's growth.
But
So
sir,
that is the effort.
things in the recent past have drastically changed, especially with Nepal.
Well, the only constant in life and in diplomacy is change. And some things you can control, some things you cannot, but you deal with it. If everything is tranquil, everything is normal, you don't need political leaders and diplomats.
But, things this time have changed in such a manner that China has stepped in with a $146 million aid to Nepal. Not only this, it's for the first time that Chinese and Nepalis are doing a joint military exercise as well.
All right, that has been taken note of. China is a major power. China's footprint in South Asia is growing, and frankly, even if I want to, I cannot stop it because we are dealing with independent countries. India has her own strengths. We have ethnical, civilizational, linguistic linkages, uh, and we have to play to our strengths. There are going to be challenges. We'll deal with it. We have confidence enough. But the last point want to make here is that it has to be appreciated. And I've traveled the world. I've served all over. No two neighbors in the world have a perfect relationship. No two neighbors.
But sir,
So there are all.
Nepal's case was entirely different. It was sort of a satellite state of India until very recently.
That is your.
Not China. It's not China that's been growing. It's India's own doing with its neighbors.
Well, that is your characterization. You're entitled to your viewpoint. I'm entitled to mine. And Nepal is an independent country. It's a very proud nation. And we have been dealing with Nepal. And after all, we have something like 125,000 Gurkha soldiers who have served the Indian army. We have been doing developmental work. We have strong ties with the people. Mistakes are committed. I'm not at all saying that India is above board. I mean, God knows we have committed mistakes. But the idea is to learn from the mistakes, and if there are challenges, you deal with it.
But sir, mistakes of such a blunder that we interfere in others when they had this constitution amendments going on, we were interfering with their own internal matter, and obviously that had enraged the Nepalese government.
Well, as I said, adjectives are for you to use. And as a free citizen of a free country, you are at liberty to use whatever adjectives you want to. What I no longer am in the saddle. I have no brief of defending anybody. I'm being upfront in saying mistakes have been committed, not just by one side, both sides. But you factor that in and try to get over the mistakes. And after all, we have our strengths. We are a democracy. The other country, China, that you're referring to, is an authoritarian state. At the moment, for competing with India, they will switch on the charm offensive. But we know what China is up to. Our saying anything will not matter. time will tell. But the long and short is, we have to play to our strengths. We have to realize, and we are realizing, that we are the geographically, economically big country in the region, and the onus is more on us. And we should not, and we are trying not to expect reciprocity. The only red line is India's security, and that red line is non-negotiable.
Mr. Ambassador, let's move on to the other topic now. Do you think laws like CAA and NRC have dented India's big brother image with the neighbors?
Again, I said, your characterizations are yours. Now, there is a need for every country to make sure that elements or individuals who have not entered the country legally, they are accounted for, they are enumerated, and then on a case-by-case basis, you decide what to do with them. That's a sovereign right of any country.
But sir, in this case, we have worsened the relations with the Bangladeshis by calling them termites.
Bangladesh, let me say, I'm speaking here for myself and my own understanding of the situation. Bangladesh is a very, very, very important country for us. And I know for a fact how much of effort India is investing, political capital, time, our developmental assistance and we are ourselves a developing country because we value the relationship. And the government of Bangladesh has been as sensitive, has been as supportive of the relationship. The relationship has been transferred.
But if Bangladesh is an important neighbor for the India, Information Minister of Bangladesh has said Amit Shah made an unwanted remark by describing Bangladeshis as termites. Not only Information Minister, UN General Secretary has expressed his concern and urged full respect and right of freedom of opinion and expressions. Malaysians have said the same. Iranians have said the same. Obviously, the Pakistanis have said the same.
Malaysian Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Mahathir also said that, the disgruntled, I'm paraphrasing it, the disgruntled elements have a right to kill millions of French. So let's not go into who said what. The point really is...
Here, it's not only the Malaysians, it's the Iranians as well.
Well, as I said, I don't want to get to who said what. I'm neither an Iranian, nor a Malaysian, nor the Secretary General of the UN General Assembly. I'm a very proud Indian. And I have some understanding of the geopolitics. I have some understanding of how the successive governments value the relationship with Bangladesh. I'm the first to say, and I'm not referring to anything specific, that we have committed mistakes. We are learning, and everybody commits mistakes, but we have the ability to correct our mistakes and move on. So I know for a fact how much we value the relationship with Bangladesh, how much of effort is going into that. And I am very confident that the relationship will only move upwards because there is a strong interest on both sides to build on this relationship.
So let's come to the Western neighbor, that's the Pakistan. Do you think in this case, army has been politicized?
Which army are you talking about?
Indian army, with the surgical strikes, Balakot strikes.
Politicized?
Yes, because Congress has been saying the same, that they have also done the surgical strikes.
No, sorry, can you reframe your question?
Do you think the Indian army has been politicized as far as Pakistan is concerned?
The Indian army, you certainly have a very broad worldview, and your understanding is very deep and exceptional. My understanding is whatever little I have. According to that, the Indian army is one of the most professional armies in the world.
And sir, enough has been said about Pakistan-India relations. What, in your view, should be done to have a good neighborly relations with Pakistan?
What have we been trying to do for the last 70 years? Who has taken initiatives? Who, and even with the present government, who invited all the South Asian leaders to the inaugural ceremony? Who flew down impromptu to Lahore to greet the Pakistani Prime Minister? Who did the Lahore Bus Yatra? India has tried incessantly to engage with Pakistan, find a modus vivendi. It's a historical fact that every time we have done that, there are elements which have reacted strongly, and our initiatives have been repaid with a terror incident. So it's very clear. And once you know that the deep state, the army, the inimical elements are out to damage the relationship, and the state civilians government is the weakest link in the chain, are not willing or able to control them, you see that there is no point. And till this attitude continues, there is just no point engaging with them, because you cannot shed Indian blood and expect them to also shake hands with you.
But sir, from their point of view, we are doing same in Balochistan and with the TTP.
That is their point of view, and their point of view has no takers, because Pakistan's perfidy, where when you have the serving minister stand up in the parliament and compliment the leadership for the success in waging a terror incident, I mean, I rest my case. I don't have to say anything more.
Sir, why cannot we revive the SARC?
Why can, well, you are asking the wrong country.
It's almost defunct.
And who has made it defunct?
So indirectly, you are saying the Pakistanis.
No, I'm saying that. I am saying that. I'm not alluding to that. I'm saying that when nothing is allowed to function, nothing, and everywhere you see a hidden agenda, even something as innocuous and positive as the virtual SARC summit for joining hands to deal with the COVID crisis was politicized. You know what they are up to. So we are investing in political relationships, but our bandwidth is so limited. We are not going to waste our time.
Sir, let's come to Sri Lanka now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir, China is also investing heavily in Sri Lanka. They have leased out the Hambantota port them as well for the next 99 years.
Good luck to them.
And what India is doing for that?
India is doing what India does. We are engaging with Sri Lanka. We are providing a considerable amount of developmental assistance, not as a favor, but as a country which we value our relationship with, and that is something that we are doing. We have good economic relations. We have a good political ties, and we are dealing with that. As I said in my very opening remarks, can you prevent any country from having good relations, or relations good or bad, with another country? So China is there. USA is there. The US Secretary of State was there recently. Japan is there. I mean, it's a free world, my friend.
Sir, and how do we tackle China, the Chinese problem?
What particular Chinese problem are you talking of?
Sir, their economic boom that has been going on. How can we tackle that? Because it's only through economic that they are holding the region together, by their roads, by their markets.
All right. So, I mean, how can we take exception to their economic growth? They are there. If they have economic growth, well, good luck to them. Let them have economic growth. If they're building roads, let them build roads. But I don't understand the question.
What should be India's strategy in countering such a policy?
No, Danishji, I'm afraid I don't understand your question, because you are saying that China is having economic growth and roads and so on. So what should India do? I mean, how can you object to the economic growth of another country? So frame your question. Ask me what's the
But
question.
from one neighbor to the other, they are taking everyone into their own fold, which is leaving
So
India without any friends. We have
no,
Japan,
again,
Australians, and the US, but they are not our immediate neighbors,
no. Again,
and
when
we
you
don't
say
share a border with them.
when you're saying that, again, that is your characterization. Please, if you appreciate what I'm trying to say is
Yes.
that China is a sovereign country. Our neighbors are sovereign countries. Can we tell? Can you let me put a counter question? Can you go to your neighbor where you live and say, please don't have friendship with another person?
But I will
Is it
try.
possible?
No, but I will try my level best to have a good friendly relations with him or her.
So go away.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for talking to me.